Look, we gotta keep it real. The 90s gave us some of the rawest, most visceral music ever recorded. But there was a massive cost attached to it. We traded the glitzy, party-hard cocaine excess of the 80s for something darker, heavier, and ultimately, sadder. From the heroin chic aesthetic to the crushing pressure of sudden MTV fame, a lot of our heroes were walking a jagged line. This isn't about glorifying the lifestyle. It's about acknowledging the artists whose struggles with substance abuse defined their lyrics, derailed their careers, or tragically cut their lives short. Here are the stories that shook the 90s the hardest. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. This is the epicenter of the conversation. Kurt's struggle with heroin wasn't just a tabloid headline. It was woven into the very fabric of In Utero. You could hear the pain and the physical toll in his voice and lyrics during those final years. His suicide in 1994 didn't just end a band and jump-started the decline of the grunge movement. It shattered the entire generation's sense of invincibility and cast a long, dark shadow over the rest of the decade. Before we continue, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoy 90s nostalgia content. Seriously, it helps the algorithm more than you know. Layne Staley from Alice in Chains. If Kurt was the shock, Layne was the slow, agonizing burn. Alice in Chains' Dirt is basically a concept album about heroin addiction, with tracks like Junkhead and Godsmack. It was terrifyingly honest. Layne possessed one of the most powerful voices in rock history, but by the late 90s, he had largely retreated into seclusion, a ghost in his own life. He eventually died of overdose in 2002. Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. Weiland was the ultimate showman, but his battles with heroin and crack cocaine turned STP's career into a roller coaster of hiatuses and canceled tours. Add to that his bipolar disorder, and you've got a recipe for truly turbulent waters. Albums like Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop, were masterpieces created in the eye of the storm. His survival through the 90s felt miraculous at the time, even if his demons never really left him, eventually catching up to him in 2015. Bradley Nowell from Sublime. This one hits different because he never got to see how big he became. Nowell died of a heroin overdose in May 1996, literally months before their third album, the self-titled Sublime, dropped and brought the band the commercial success that eluded them all this time. What I Got and Santeria became the alt-rock sounds of the summer at a moment the man who wrote them was already gone. Shannon Hoon from Blind Melon. Few singers from the 90s alt-rock scene had a voice as unique as Shannon Hoon. That's why the singing always stood out in every Blind Melon track. While that voice was connected to a brilliant psychedelic mind, it also fronted a deeply troubled soul, causing Hoon to struggle with substance addiction for a big part of his short life. His overdose on the tour bus in 1995 at the age of 28 was a wake-up call that the peace and love, neo-hippie vibe of the early 90s wasn't immune to hard drugs. Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode. While grunge was dealing with heroin in Seattle, the electronic scene had its own casualties. The darkest Depeche Mode album, Songs of Faith and Devotion, was fueled by Gahan's severe addiction. How severe? Well, it got so bad, he technically died for 2 minutes after an overdose in 1996, before being revived. That event became a Lazarus moment that marked a turning point for the band and Gahan's life. The Depeche Mode lead singer has stayed sober ever since, allowing the band to continue thriving. Today, the group is still active, albeit as a duo consisting of Dave and Martin Gore. Courtney Love from Hole. You can't talk about the 90s without Courtney. Her struggles were lived out loud, often aggressively in the public eye. While the tabloids were ruthless, Live Through This stands as a testament to her resilience and raw talent amidst a chaotic storm of drug use and personal tragedy following Kurt's death. Love continued to make music, albeit sporadically, after the 90s, even announcing plans to release a new album earlier this year. Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. ODB was the wild card of the Wu-Tang Clan, bringing a chaotic energy that was impossible to replicate. However, as the decade wore on, his substance abuse fueled increasingly erratic behavior, along with a host of legal troubles that overshadowed his immense talent. He passed away in 2004, just 2 days before his 36th birthday, due to an accidental overdose. Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Kiedis is another one of the survivors of this list. While Blood Sugar Sex Magik, 1991, gave us Under the Bridge, a ballad explicitly about his isolation and drug use, he struggled with relapses throughout the mid-90s, particularly during the One Hot Minute era. His ability to pull himself out of the darkness is a huge reason the Chili's are still able to fill stadiums today. Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. The Industrial King spent the latter half of the 90s in a downward spiral of alcohol and cocaine, trying to cope with the massive expectations after the success of their second studio album, The Downward Spiral. The aggression and despair on The Fragile from 1999 are the sounds of a man crashing straight to rock bottom before eventually getting sober in the early 2000s. Jonathan Davis from Korn. Nu metal brought a different kind of angst, and Korn's frontman dealt with meth and alcohol addiction early in the band's explosion. The raw, unhinged emotion on their 1994 debut, and Life is Peachy, came from a place of genuine instability, which he thankfully managed to curb before it destroyed him. Kristen Fath from Hole. Often overshadowed by the other tragedies in the Seattle scene, the Hole bassist died of an overdose just 2 months after Kurt Cobain, in June 1994. It was a brutal double punch to the gut for the community, not to mention Courtney Love, reinforcing the feeling that the Seattle scene was cursed by the substances that helped fuel its creativity.